there's 75 separate charges and 10 different offenses. So I'm not gonna say for two. It won't make any sense.
Some of these cases, stuff y'all put out individually.
Maybe it's possible. Yeah, it's so complicated. I'm not the expert on this. It's going on a year.
What you're doing all the time.
Well, the thing about this is some of these guys were already arrested for certain things here and there. What happens is using ballistics lab, DNA lab, and a bunch of other stuff. Over the years, a couple of our investigators worked
I think it's the 24th. I think that's the end of the
and if we could say, we would close like 10 shootings, like I said, so one day, and then we have this new criminal enterprise law. So most of them, not some of them, they might go through that. Some of them are getting charged as criminal enterprise. And all I do is yeah, we use all that's a good thing. The state's like a huge, we can still pay the state, it's like a year. They use it back to like 30 days, 15 days. That's a huge part of it. We were finding out that this shooting was this shooting and like, that's what I forget. This is our
When you talk about these people, one that we were here for.
yes, yeah. That's what this is all about. Yes. So it's not like we went out and arrested all of them last week for 10 shooting incidents, but we linked 10 shooting incidents together. So over the last year, we were able to charge multiple back and forth metro and make it totality cases. They're already with the team. Firearms, cell phone guns, video, witnesses, confidential. I'm on the phone again. None of it's outside. Yes, the biggest issue. No, I did not invite you. I thought I should have, but I didn't. That was just a thing at the very end. So like I said, people have been arrested for that. We're still getting stuff. You know, once somebody gets arrested for something, maybe it's so this was a it's a lot. This shooting here, we got 79 things charged each group. This shooting here, 79 things charged each group. You know, in the totality, all of them have been linked together. Yes, well, they're definitely facing state. One or two already got the charges, and most of them are under, right now, they're still investigating. So I do whatever they do. Patrol stop. We don't find drugs arrested. You know, this is like, there's deals made, there's people on testimony.
And that's, it's really great, you know. Yeah.
Sorry.
Matter of fact, we might, I was thinking about all that. I got one idea.
Unflattering description.
I'm only echoing.
Only difference, mine is darker. Yeah, mine is darker too.
I'm not sure. Oh my God.
All right, does anybody know if there's anybody, media, that anybody know anybody's missing or is desperately texting that they're 1 minute out?
I only see one local TV station that's not here right now.
Okay, I've got someone going to check the lobby in the parking lot real quick, so we're going to get started here in just about 1 minute here. While I've got y'all, I would like to mention that our Group Me, you know, we put out several weeks back that we did our annual audit. and noticed that quite a lot of people did not respond to that, so they were removed from the group me. So if any of your colleagues, you might want to mention that to them, that they need to recontact us if they'd like to be added back to the group me. But if we don't do that, we end up with lots of folks that have gotten jobs or been reassigned to other places, getting group texts that they don't really need to. Alicia back. You good? Okay, y'all ready? My name's Captain Jack Kennedy. I'm a captain here at the Sheriff's Office, and I'm the commander of the multi-jurisdictional task force, the Tuscaloosa County Violent Crimes Unit. As you all know, the Violent Crimes Unit is charged in Tuscaloosa County with investigating all felony assaults against persons. This press release today, we're going to be specifically talking about shootings. These shootings involve drive-by shootings, shooting into occupied dwellings, buildings, vehicles, and attempted murders, and felon possession of firearm cases. The Violent Crimes Unit is made up of 4 jurisdictions: the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Office, the Tuscaloosa Police Department, the Northport Police Department, and the University of Alabama Police Department. In addition to working the cases from those jurisdictions, we also work at request from our smaller municipalities out in the county as well, frequently, or if not all the time, that those cases rise to the level that they need attention from the unit. We work alongside the District Attorney's Office extensively during these cases and investigations, and I'd like to point out that today in attendance we've got obviously the Sheriff Ron Abernathy here, Chief Blakely, Chief Hooks from UAPD, Chief Burton from Northport, Chief Chad Griffin from the Coling Police Department. One of these cases in particular occurred in his municipality and city. Resident Agent in charge of the ATF, Freddie Young, and Supervisory Special Agent Eric Salvador from the FBI. The U.S. Attorney's Office was also involved in this, as well as the U.S. Marshals Task Force, but unfortunately they could not be here today. After I get through going through some of the specifics of this case, y'all can open up for questions, and also to the leaders of the administration here. So, the reason that we have a task force and have all the jurisdictions together is the ability to share our resources. And one of the biggest advantages to that is we're able to track crimes across our jurisdictions more easily, as you can imagine. We use all available resources in our investigations to obtain the best possible evidence to provide to prosecutors. Now, of course, this includes the time-tested techniques of physical evidence collection, witness interviews, community outreach, and extensive documentation. And those methods today are just as important as they were in past years to criminal investigations. Additionally, both the Tuscaloosa Police Department and the Sheriff's Office in the last several years have developed and maintained and stood up their own crime scene units and their own crime labs. These programs have been amazing successes. We also utilize the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences for advanced testing on evidentiary items. Both the Sheriff's Office and the Police Department have also stood up and staffed separate cyber intelligence units. These units provide resources including video surveillance and enhancement, cell phone and social media data extractions, financial links, and detailed criminal histories and involvements. By utilizing these advanced forensic and electronic resources, many crimes that are committed by the same person or groups of persons can now be linked together more easily than they have been in the past. One brilliant example of this is the City of Tuscaloosa's ballistics laboratory that they've stood up. They are able to address and analyze shell casings and firearms evidence much quicker than we used to be able to get from the Department of Forensic Sciences. The Violent Crimes Unit works closely with all police agencies in our county, the District Attorney's Office, and multiple federal law enforcement agencies from our area. These include the FBI, the ATF, the U.S. Marshals Service, the Secret Service, Homeland Security, and the Postal Inspectors, and the U.S. Attorney's Office when we're conducting our investigation. The investigation that we're going to talk to you about today began in January of 2024. It is an in-depth investigation of a series of shooting incidents that resulted in our investigators being able to link a group of suspects to multiple crimes, including 10 separate shooting incidents. It was found that the group was funding themselves through financial crimes, notably credit and bank fraud. Multiple bank tellers were discovered to be helping them commit this financial fraud. Multiple persons have confessed to their part in the scheme of the financial fraud. The potential loss of money from that part of the crime is probably well over $1 million. During this investigation, over 60 subpoenas and search warrants were obtained and used to obtain evidence that corroborated this fraud and the shootings. We've uncovered that the group was involved in at least 10 shooting incidents since 2023, and that's what we can prove. I'm sure there are more. All of these defendants have now been arrested on multiple warrants, and the totality of the case was presented to a grand jury in Tuscaloosa County, which later resulted in 75 separate indictments. They're all been charged and arrested at this time. Additionally, it was found that the suspects committing these crimes were committing them as an organized group, which fell under the recently passed Criminal Enterprise Act in Alabama. This law was passed in 2023. This law provides for additional charges and notably has sentencing enhancements for mandatory time to be served if convicted. In addition to these charges, several have already been charged by several federal agencies, and multiple defendants are still undergoing investigation by these federal agencies, and we expect appropriate federal charges to result. Some of these suspects, I believe 3 of them, are charged are over the age of 16, but they are under the age of 18, and therefore no identifying information about them can be released. A quick summary of the incidents, and again, this is just the shooting incidents. There was a plethora of other crimes and associated crimes that they were charged with in addition to these. But in July 2023, a man was shot in the face in broad daylight while he sat inside a vehicle at a gas station. Investigation found that this criminal enterprise believed that this victim was related to their gang activity, but they were mistaken, and this victim was an innocent bystander. 1 week later, members of this same criminal enterprise got into a shootout in the Alberta area of Tuscaloosa with a rival gang. Again, an innocent person was shot, this time in the abdomen. In January of 24, members of this criminal enterprise drove to a residence, again as part of a dispute, and shot into an occupied resident multiple times over a monetary dispute in their criminal activity. Also in January of that year, the same criminal enterprise shot into another occupied apartment, this time with a fully automatic rifle. Again in January, the same members shot into a different occupied apartment on a different date, again with a fully automatic rifle and a 9mm pistol. Also in January, they shot into an occupied residence, again with a fully automatic rifle. In April of last year, they were wearing masks, got out on a group of individuals. They allegedly tried to shoot one of them, but the gun did not fire. A shootout ensued as they left the complex. Dozens of shots were fired from the criminal enterprise. Unfortunately, at this point, no victim has come forward to prosecute in that case. So if you're here in this press conference, we're ready for you to come forward. That was captured on video pursuant to this investigation. In April of 24, multiple members got into a large shootout in the city of Coaling, Alabama. A pistol outfitted with a conversion device making it fully automatic was used by one. One vehicle was shot into, 3 other vehicles were shot into. Dozens, if not hundreds of shots were fired, and miraculously no one was killed. In May of last year, they got into a shootout at an apartment complex and shot approximately 100 rounds into 6 separate occupied apartments, an unoccupied building, and an occupied vehicle. Incidentally, we also proved that they had stolen a motorcycle right before that. And then in May of last year, Kenneth Duncan, one of the major leaders of this criminal enterprise, was arrested for capital murder in Pickens County, Alabama. That case is currently undergoing in Pickens County, and any questions about that need to be directed to them. As I mentioned, these individuals are still under investigation by multiple federal law enforcement agencies for appropriate federal charges, and several of these individuals have been charged pursuant to the Criminal Enterprise Act. The press release that I will send out will have a copy of the text of that law with it. The thing that we want to showcase or to release here today to the public is that this Criminal Enterprise Act has mandatory sentencing involved. So if these persons are convicted and they are armed, you can see in the law their term of imprisonment without good time, parole, or any benefits, or being able to be conserved concurrently, ranges from 5 to 30 years of extra sentencing. Some of these defendants have been charged pursuant to that act. This is because they were operating as one organized group and they were committing these crimes to benefit their group. So, as I said, there's 10 different defendants. I won't go through all their names now. All that will be released to you in the press release along with their mugshots.
Jack, who was in charge of this group, and what did they go by?
I don't know if I can say that with certainty, because I don't know the inner workings of what they've done. Obviously, Kenneth Duncan has the majority of the charges and seems to be involved in a lot of them.
How old is he?
He is 23 years old.
Are any of these people, are they just like local people, either in Tuscaloosa, West
Yes,
Alabama?
these are all locals.
Are we talking college students?
These are all locals between the ages of 30 and 16, 17, 18. The majority of them, only 3 of them are under 18.
Most of these incidents, most of these shootings and other crimes occurred in Tuscaloosa County?
Yes, all of those occurred in Tuscaloosa County with the exception of the murder case in Pickens County.
What was the tipping point where you realized there's a connection between these shootings?
So I was speaking to some of y'all earlier. There's no immediate tipping point. Some of these guys were charged along the way for an individual shooting here and there or other crimes. What occurred is that with the new enterprise law behind us, our investigators realized that they looked like they might have evidence they were in violation of this. In order to prove that, we have to prove multiple facts, that they are operating as that criminal enterprise, which requires many different elements, as well as the crime that they were committing was for the benefit of the criminal enterprise. So looking deeper into those individual crimes and then the results coming in from our labs, so that's why I mentioned our ballistics labs, our crime labs, and our cyber labs. So as I said, there were warrants obtained for cell phone information, warrants obtained for financial information, warrants obtained for social media communications when appropriate, ballistics information from TPD's lab that was able to match shell casings to different crime scenes, videos. But then again, all of that was great, but then that allowed our investigators to go out and talk to witnesses and informants, just like in the past days, and have that information with them to back them up. And that all of that together over time was able to link these individuals together as an operating group. Now again, we may have had knowledge of and believed, but we have to prove, right? We have to get evidence to prove probable cause that they're operating as a group. So what I'm releasing to you today is what we have been able to obtain charges on. That by no means is to try to put out that this is the only crimes that this group is responsible for, right? So these, over time, investigators spending a great deal of time and working with a great deal of witnesses, victims, and informants, a great deal of cataloging video and cyber intelligence, a great fingerprints were matched on certain crime scenes. I think DNA is going to come into play on some of these. Like I said, all of that together over time, I can't speak enough about the investigators that worked to compile this, right, into one package to prove the network of that. And again, just for these crimes here, we have that probable cause or evidence to go forward with charges. By no means is this what all they're responsible for. So,
and you think that there's more people out there that are connected, or you think this is everyone?
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are. You know, and of course this can continue on. The federal assistance that we obtained in this and all of our cases is invaluable. The Marshal Service, of course, does an excellent job of tracking these fugitives down and arresting them when we obtain charges on them. Yeah, they do an excellent job with that. The ATF in particular has provided invaluable assistance to us. Some of these crimes, of course, have their federal counterparts, in particular possession of automatic weapons or machine guns and felons in possession of firearms, right? So they were charged under state law. That may be something that they're also going to be charged under federal law. And you know, this is just a great example of all of this law enforcement capacity working together and being able to uncover. Because I was going to tell you, 15 years ago,
right? When we didn't have cyber units, we didn't have our own individual crime labs, right? We didn't have these working relationships as strong as we do now. Some of these would have just been reports with no suspect in them, right? Some of these would have been reports where we obtained a charge for this guy for shooting into an occupied building, but we would not have been able to dedicate the time and be able to build the case that this was an organized gang, right? Criminal enterprise. And then on top of that, turns out this group in particular is actually involved in bank fraud and credit card fraud that is financing their lifestyle. So they are operating criminally in all aspects of their life and are violently engaged in shooting incidents in our community. So these are the type of persons that we are combating day to day on violent crime. And I think it's often said anecdotally, but we all know it's true, that a small minority of people are causing the majority of the crimes, right? This is a perfect example of that. And with the district attorney's help in us being able to build this case under this Criminal Enterprise Act, we hope that this group right here will be slowed down, if not incarcerated, for a very long period of time. And that makes a significant impact on the violent crime in our community.
How did you guys figure out they were committing financial crimes to support their crime organization?
It's all part of the things that just came about during the investigation. Like I said, our cyber units cannot be overstated, right? We, of course, have to have probable cause to look into these people's information. We have to obtain search warrants authorized by a judge. But when we do, we are able to look at financial records, right? We are able to look at cell phone records. Oftentimes, witnesses or other people involved with them may want to come forward, right? And then, we get that little nugget, and then that leads us further and further down the road. Like I said, this investigation spanned a year. It spanned about 12 months.
Were the shootings result of drug trade, revenge, intimidation, or what are we talking about?
Everything you just said. It was them combating other people they perceived to be a gang against them, right? Combating people that used to be with them that they thought owed them money, stealing trucks, four-wheelers, and motorcycles, just getting into arguments over social media about what they're doing and going by to prove a point by shooting into an apartment complex where 6 apartments got hit with over 100 rounds of ammunition. Right? That is beyond the pale.
I have a question from someone else. They were wondering what role did UAPD play? Were some of these people either victims or were they involved?
So we had no individual cases at the University of Alabama at all. However, the University of Alabama provides members to our task force and all the resources at the university with us. So we're all together in this, right? Our manpower we're combat multipliers. The task force is a combat multiplier. All the units providing all the personnel to us allows us to do these things, right? Our county CID was just out on a missing 2-year-old. They're going from property crime to property crime. Our violent crimes investigators are going from death investigation to shooting investigation to shooting investigation. So having all these units together allows us the manpower and the time to dedicate to this. So that's why they're here, because their assistance is invaluable at the University of Alabama. We often have victims, suspects, witnesses, and family that are associated with the university, and they give us a great deal of help, and they do provide 3 personnel to our task force.
Which bank? So how many bank tellers were involved in this?
That is currently part of some federal investigations, and I'm not going to get into that.
How many agencies were involved total with this total investigation for the last 12
Well, like I said, obviously the 4 main agencies of the Violent Crimes Unit, the Coaling Police Department, the ATF, I believe the Secret Service, the Postal Inspectors, the U.S. Marshals, and the U.S. Attorney's Office and the District Attorney's Office at a minimum. The Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences, and I'm sure I'm leaving folks out, right? So.
Was this group of individuals affiliated with any larger gang, and this was a smaller branch, or just a local gang
That's up to them to tell us, but they're definitely a gang or consider themselves a group that was working together. So at this time, I'm going to turn this over to the Sheriff. Would you like to say some words, and Chief Blakely?
I just want to reiterate what Jack has already said. It comes down to all of us working together, all the police departments, the sheriff's office. The technology that we have today is unbelievable. I never thought I would ever see it in my lifetime. And us working together and using that allowed us to solve this case, along with the great investigative work that investigators are doing every day. At the same time, I want to thank the AG, Steve Marshall, and for pushing this bill through, and our legislators. It's very important for them to actually listen to law enforcement and understand what we're dealing with, and make these laws that make it easier for us to solve these crimes. And this is an example of that. So I want to make sure I put a plug out to them for doing that, because that's great that they listen to us and they put some tools in our hands that allow us to be more effective. And again, I just want to thank all the agencies. We all work incredibly well together, and the technology that we have, we draw on TPD's labs for like the gun cases, and we have more specialization in DNA and stuff like that, and we all work together to solve the crime. And I don't even want to go into the technology side of it. It's absolutely amazing. So your men and women in law enforcement here in Tuscaloosa County do an incredible job, and they're going to continue to do so. So thank you very much.
I just want to echo everything that the sheriff said and Captain Kennedy. You know, we get to stand up here and take credit for the hours and hours and hundreds of hours of work that our investigators do. What people don't understand is when we do have one of these shootings, these investigators are working around the clock. If they get called out at 11 o'clock at night, they're here sometimes 2 days to solve these crimes. And we get to stand up here and take the credit for what they do, but all this is on them. They work so hard to solve these cases. I know in Tuscaloosa Police Department, we've ramped up, details in the city. The sheriff's office, everybody was tired of crime. And when you have one of those people in the community that come up to you and say, hey, thank y'all so much for out here working, and these investigators are working nonstop, it means a lot to them, it means a lot to us. Because Tuscaloosa, we're tired of the crime. And I can't speak enough about what this is going to do. We hope it sends a message that, hey, look, we're going to lock you up for a long period of time. We're going to lock you up as long as we possibly can. And if you get out and you do it again, we're going to do it again. We just want a safe community, and just can't thank just all the investigators for working as hard as they can. The partnerships between everybody is amazing. The days are gone where everybody's kind of keeping it to themselves. We're going to put all the resources into the problem, whatever agency, federal or local that is. So thank y'all for being here today, and I just want to thank the investigators for working as hard as they can on this, because it means a whole lot to our community.
Jack, is there any sense that there are other organized criminal groups in Tuscaloosa or the broader sort of Tuscaloosa County area? There's been some sort of hesitance to talk about gangs in the past.
Well, I think that there are, but I don't think that they are the nightmare scenario that a lot of people visualize when we think about this stuff, like, from movies and stuff. We have lots of small groups of associates that start doing things together. Right now, that's crime. But as for the idea that we have a godfather or a kingpin that's pulling, no, we don't think we have that going on. But what we do have are several, or it ebbs and flows, and of course people do things one day and quit the next. Right? But we have small groups of associates that, for whatever reasons, they go off and decide to become this. And this is a case here, like you said, that every time we go out, like Chief said, at 1 o'clock in the morning, because someone's house got shot into, or there was a shooting between two people in the middle of an apartment complex where both those people left. Right? So one person didn't stay behind and say, oh, please help me, I've been a victim of a crime, someone tried to kill me, but both of them left. Well, what's going on there? Right? Both sides of that don't want to have contact with the police. That's something along these lines that's going on. So, but the issue with that is people do get hurt. People do get killed. Innocent people, in these cases, got shot, right? And people are fearful. It makes people fearful, right? Over that, and we're not going to allow that. That is unacceptable, and we're going to do everything that we can to arrest and prosecute those offenders.
Jack, to be clear, you said the only homicide in this investigation happened in Pickens County.
Yes.
None were here.
Yes. Pickens County is where the homicide occurred.
Is there a name that this organized group went under, or a nickname?
Nothing that I'm going to release that would anyone to do anything with.
Has there ever been any type of investigation or organized crime to this level before that you guys have worked with here in the city or county limits of Tuscaloosa?
I'm sure there have been some in the past. I can't think of anything that's been this complex in the last several years that we've done, which is why we wanted to invite y'all here today. So.
Jack, when you take somebody off of the criminal top of the food chain, so to speak, what about all those kind of underneath them? Do they just rise up?
This is criminal. This is criminal behavior, from the money to their lifestyle to their actions. So these folks here didn't care about anybody else, and if there's anybody else operating like them, they don't care about anybody else. They're just getting up every day and doing what they do. And so is law enforcement in this county. That's what we're going to do. And so we're not going to abide it.
Does this change you guys' perceptions or how you're looking into things when you're
Yes.
going on the scene of a shooting? And
Yes.
what are you guys now thinking about or
Absolutely.
looking for?
Yes, because if we can prove the elements of the criminal enterprise, then this is an entirely new class of criminal offenses that they can be charged with. And if convicted, an entire set of mandatory sentences. Absolutely, we're looking into this. So that the folks in our community that want to behave like this should know that we're going to be looking to make these connections, and no longer are you going to be charged with a Class A felony and hope to see what happens when you go to court. That Class A felony is going to have a 30-year mandatory sentence because you had a firearm with you. Okay.
You mentioned one case that had a converter, a Glock switch converter. Is there a certain number of these cases that might
Yes,
involve
there's
that?
several of those, and I'm not sure. I'm not the expert on the complexities of the specifics, but there was a automatic weapon or a converted automatic weapon, whether it was a Glock switch or otherwise. I'm not sure. Probably was, but I think in this group there were multiple incidents of automatic weapons being used. So.
Numerous shootings in Tuscaloosa have involved those converters
Yes. recently.
Are you able to talk about just the initiatives that you guys are taking to consider that in your investigation?
No, it's this same as it's always been. It was already a crime, and now we have the Glock switch law, right? They call it, that we can charge them state. The federally, they can be charged as well. And then if we can put the criminal enterprise on them, they'll be charged as well. And pursuant to the criminal enterprise law, that if they have one of those, it's a minimum term of imprisonment of not less than 30 years. If they have a improvised and or machine gun, it's a minimum term of imprisonment of 30 years. Again, that time cannot be reduced by good time. It cannot be eligible for parole, and it cannot be run concurrent with any other sentence. And it also cannot even be run concurrent with its own law, which means that it is a violation of the law to be in a criminal enterprise. And the law is specific to make sure not even that punishment can be concurrent with the sentencing enhancement for having the automatic weapon. So how about that? This law has teeth. So all right, well, that's all we got. I'm going to end the press conference now. I will be emailing all this out to y'all in just a few minutes.